Commander Hyun stood on the bridge of the colony ship Morning Star, watching the stars streak past in the viewing screen. Behind him, 12,000 people slept in cryopods or worked in the ship's many decks. They were heading to New Sol, a fresh planet in the Tau Ceti system. It would be their new home. Hyun was tired. The journey had been long, and they were only 3 days away from their destination. He sipped his coffee and thought about his wife and daughter waiting in cryosleep below. Soon they would wake up to a new world. The alarm shattered his thoughts. "Commander, we have contacts," said the sensor officer. "Multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. They're surrounding us." Hyun's blood went cold. The screen showed massive vessels unlike anything in the Terran Coalition database. They were organic-looking, like giant creatures made of metal and flesh. 8 of them circled the Morning Star like sharks around prey. "Hail them," Hyun ordered. "Standard greeting protocol." The communication officer tried once, twice, 3 times. No response. Then the alien ships opened fire. The 2 escort frigates protecting the Morning Star exploded in seconds. Hyun watched in horror as the ships that carried his friends and fellow officers turned into expanding clouds of debris and frozen bodies. "Shields up. Evasive maneuvers," Hyun shouted, but he knew it was useless. The Morning Star was a colony ship, not a warship. It carried farming equipment and families, not weapons and soldiers. A message finally came through. The alien voice was harsh, filled with clicking sounds and growls. The translation system struggled, then displayed words on the screen. "Weak creatures. You are now property of the Velcran Dominion. Surrender or die." Hyun stood straight. "This is Commander Hyun of the Terran Coalition. We are a peaceful colony ship. We mean you no harm. Please let us go." The response was immediate. Energy beams tore through the Morning Star's engine section. The ship shuddered and died, lights flickering as backup power kicked in. "Surrender accepted," the Velcran message said. "Prepare for boarding." Down in the engineering section, Ji-won was trying to restart the backup generators when she heard the screaming. She turned to see massive creatures tearing through the bulkhead doors. They were 8 feet tall, covered in scales, with eyes that gleamed with cruel intelligence. The Velcran warriors carried weapons that looked like living things, pulsing with biolight. They swept through the corridors, and wherever they went, people died. Ji-won hid behind a power conduit, her hand over her mouth to stop herself from screaming. She watched as the creatures grabbed her fellow engineers. Some they killed on the spot. Others they dragged away, their screams echoing through the metal halls. One Velcran stopped near her hiding spot. It sniffed the air, and Ji-won knew it could smell her fear. She closed her eyes, waiting for death, but the creature moved on, and Ji-won stayed frozen in her hiding spot, tears streaming down her face. In the education deck, Teacher Minji gathered the children around her. There were 32 of them, aged 5 to 12. They were supposed to be the first generation of New Sol. "Stay quiet," she whispered. "Stay together." But the children could hear the screaming. They could hear the weapons firing. The oldest boy, barely 12, looked at Minji with terrified eyes. "What's happening, Teacher Minji?" Before she could answer, the doors exploded inward. Velcran warriors poured into the room. Minji stood in front of the children, arms spread wide. "Please," she begged. "They're just children. Please don't hurt them." The lead Velcran looked at her. For a moment, Minji thought she saw something like curiosity in its reptilian eyes. Then it raised its weapon. "Resource species do not negotiate," it said in broken human speech. The weapon fired. Minji fell and the children screamed. The Velcran moved forward. Dr. Taeyang was in the medical bay when the Velcran reached him. He had 20 wounded people on beds, people hurt in the initial attack. He stood at the door, blocking the way. "This is a medical facility," he said firmly. "These people are wounded. Under galactic law, they're protected." The Velcran warrior tilted its head as if considering. Then it laughed, a horrible sound like rocks grinding together. "Your laws mean nothing. Weak species have no rights." Taeyang watched in horror as the Velcran walked past him and systematically executed every wounded person in the medical bay. When they were done, they grabbed Taeyang and threw him against the wall. "You will serve," the Velcran said, "or you will die. Choose." On the bridge, Commander Hyun had one last chance. While the Velcran were busy slaughtering his people, he activated the emergency quantum burst transmitter. It would send one message back to Earth, moving faster than light itself. His fingers flew across the controls. He had seconds before the Velcran reached the bridge. He could hear them outside, cutting through the doors. He typed, Velcran Dominion attacked without warning. They showed no mercy. Women, children, everyone. We tried peace. They only understand death. Make them pay. Make them all pay. He hit send just as the doors fell. A Velcran warrior, larger than the others, stepped through. It held a blade that seemed to be made of living metal. You are the leader? It asked. Hyun stood tall. I am Commander Hyun of the Terran Coalition. You've just made the biggest mistake of your species' existence. The Velcran laughed. Your species is weak. Soft skin, fragile bones. You are nothing but resources to be harvested. Remember my name, Hyun said quietly. Remember it when my species comes for you. We will find you. We will hunt you. And we will show you exactly what we are. The Velcran raised its blade. Empty words from dead prey. The blade fell and Commander Hyun died. But his message was already racing toward Earth at impossible speed. 3 days later, a Terran patrol ship found the Morning Star drifting in space. Of the 12,000 people aboard, 11,847 were dead. 153 had been taken as slaves. The patrol ship's captain walked through the corridors, seeing the bodies of families still holding each other. She found children in the education deck, killed while trying to hide. She found wounded people executed in their medical beds. She found Commander Hyun on the bridge, his dead eyes still staring defiantly at his killers. The captain activated her communication system. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook with rage. Command, this is Captain Sora. I'm uploading the Morning Star's black box data now. Every second of the attack is recorded. Sir, they murdered children. They killed wounded. They showed no mercy. There was a long pause. Then, copy that, Captain Sora. Return to Earth immediately. Bring the black box data. We'll make sure everyone sees it. What about the survivors? Captain Sora asked. The ones they took? We'll get them back, the voice said. And there was iron in those words. We'll get them all back. And the Velcran will learn what it means to make an enemy of humanity. Captain Sora looked at the bodies one last time. She thought about her own children back on Earth. She thought about how the Velcran had murdered these innocent people without a second thought. Sir, she said quietly, permission to speak freely? Granted, burn them all. Don't leave a single one alive. There was another pause. Then, the President will address humanity in 6 hours. I think you'll be satisfied with the response. Earth out. Captain Sora stood among the dead and made a promise to every corpse she saw. The Velcran thought humans were weak. They thought humans were prey. They were about to learn the truth. Humanity wasn't prey. Humanity was the predator, and they had just woken the most dangerous hunters in the galaxy. Admiral Dayun stood in the war room deep beneath Geneva, watching the footage for the 100th time. Each viewing made her angrier. Each viewing made her more certain of what needed to happen. On the massive screen, the black box recording from the Morning Star played. She watched Velcran warriors murder children. She watched them execute wounded people in hospital beds. She watched them laugh while doing it. Around the table sat the leaders of the Terran Coalition. Generals, admirals, politicians, scientists. All of them had the same look on their faces. Cold rage, President Sang-hoon stood up. He was a gentleman, known for his diplomatic skills. But today his voice was steel. They made their choice, he said. They saw our extended hand and bit it off. Now we show them what humanity really is. The vote was unanimous. War. Within hours, the footage was broadcast across all 17 human colonies. Every man, woman, and child saw what the Velcran had done. They saw the murdered families. They saw the slaughtered children. The reaction was instant. Riots broke out on some worlds, but not riots of chaos. Riots of purpose. People stormed recruitment centers, demanding to join the military. Factories retooled themselves for war production without being asked. Scientists volunteered to develop weapons. Humanity was waking up, and it was angry. In the Galactic Council building on Neutral Station Harmony 7, the alien ambassadors watched the human response with growing concern. The Quilmari ambassador, a peaceful butterfly-like creature, spoke first. They're not panicking, she said, her translator making her musical language into flat human words. Why aren't they panicking? The Draxian ambassador, a bear-like creature from a high-gravity world, rumbled his response. Because they're not afraid. Look at their history files. Humans don't panic. They organize. On the screens, they watched human shipyards light up. 12 new battleships were already under construction, and more were being planned. Thousands of civilian ships were being converted into warships. "This is madness," the Quilmari ambassador said. "The Velcran Dominion controls 40 star systems. Humans only have 17. Numbers don't matter," the Draxian said quietly. "Not to them. Check their historical database. Search for Thermopylae. Search for Stalingrad. Search for Chosen Reservoir. Humans don't fight to win. They fight until the enemy doesn't exist anymore." General Hanna stood in the training facility on Mars, watching the new recruits. In just 3 days, recruitment had exceeded every expectation. They had enough volunteers to fill 100 armies. A young soldier approached her. He was barely 18 with fire in his eyes. "General, when do we ship out? When do we make them pay?" Hanna looked at the boy. She saw the same expression on every face around her. They didn't want glory. They wanted revenge, soon, she said. "But first we train. The Velcran think we're weak. We're going to show them what weak really means." The training was brutal. Hanna pushed the recruits harder than any soldiers had been pushed before. But nobody complained. Nobody quit. They all remembered the footage from the Morning Star. In a laboratory beneath Luna City, scientist Junho worked with his team on a special project. They were analyzing Velcran biology from the few samples they had. What they discovered was interesting. "Their scales are resistant to energy weapons," Junho explained to Admiral Dayan. "That's why their shields are designed for energy attacks. But look at this," he showed her a simulation. A simple kinetic weapon, a metal rod accelerated to extreme speed, punching through Velcran armor like paper. "They evolved on a world without projectile weapons," Junho said. "Their entire military doctrine is based on energy warfare. They've never faced an enemy that throws rocks really, really fast." Dayan smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "How fast can we make the rocks go? With our railgun technology? 0.4 light speed. The kinetic energy would be..." Junho did some calculations. "Catastrophic. Perfect. Start production immediately. I want every ship armed with these within 3 months." Across human space, the war machine was building. But it wasn't just weapons. It was strategy. Captain Bora commanded a merchant fleet, 20 cargo ships that hauled goods between colonies. When the war started, she volunteered immediately. "Turn my ships into warships," she told the naval architects. "Make them look like merchants on the outside, but fill them with guns on the inside." The idea spread. Hundreds of civilian ships were converted into Q ships, disguised warships that looked harmless. The Velcran would learn that in human space everything was a threat. Deep in Velcran territory, Corporal Minho was suffering. He had been captured from the Morning Star, one of the 153 survivors. The Velcran used them as slaves, working them until they died, but Minho was observing. He watched the Velcran guards. He learned their patrol patterns. He studied their technology. And he waited. When a Velcran guard got careless, Minho struck. He was weak from starvation, but desperation made him strong. He killed the guard and took his weapon. Then he ran. It took him 3 weeks to steal a small Velcran shuttle, another week to figure out how to fly it. But Minho made it back to human space, half dead but carrying precious information. "Their supply lines are predictable," he told Admiral Dayan from his hospital bed. "They use the same routes every time. And their commanders are arrogant. They don't believe anyone would dare attack them." Dayan leaned forward. "Tell me everything." Minho smiled weakly. "Make them suffer, Admiral. For everyone they killed. Count on it." Back at the Galactic Council, the Velcran ambassador had arrived. He was a towering creature dripping with arrogance. He spoke to the assembled aliens as if they were children. "The human species has been classified as resources," he announced. "Any species that interferes will be considered hostile." The other ambassadors shifted uncomfortably. Nobody wanted to anger the Velcran Dominion. Then the human ambassador stood up. Ambassador Taewon was a small woman, barely 5 feet tall. But she walked to the podium like she owned the room. "The Terran Coalition has one message for the Velcran Dominion," she said calmly. "Return our people. All of them. Alive and unharmed. You have 30 days. The Velcran ambassador laughed. "Or what, little human? Your species is weak. We have 40 systems. We have 1,000 warships. What do you have?" Taewon smiled. It was the same smile Admiral Dayan had worn. "Cold and dangerous. We have patience. We have memory. And we have something your species clearly lacks. The good sense to know when you've made a terrible mistake." She pulled up a hologram. It showed Earth's history: wars, genocides, nuclear weapons, biological weapons. Humanity's entire bloody history laid bare. You see this? Taewon said. This is what we did to ourselves, to our own species. Imagine what we'll do to you. The Velcran ambassador was unimpressed. Ancient history? You're civilized now, soft, are we? Taewon pulled up new footage. Human shipyards working day and night, weapons being manufactured by the millions, armies training in deadly efficiency. You attacked one colony ship, Taewon said softly. One ship with 12,000 civilians. We're building a fleet that could glass a planet. We're training armies that could fight for centuries. We're designing weapons that would make our ancestors proud. She leaned forward. You took our people. You killed our children. And you laughed about it. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to return every single human you took. You're going to get out of our space. And you're going to pray we're feeling merciful. The Velcran ambassador roared with laughter. 30 days? We'll use that time to harvest more of your colonies. Taewon's expression didn't change. Then you've chosen extinction. Don't say we didn't warn you. She walked out of the council chamber. Behind her, the other ambassadors sat in silence. The Draxian ambassador spoke quietly. They warned them. The Velcran didn't listen. What happens now? The Quilmari ambassador asked. Now? The Draxian looked at the footage of human war preparations. Now we watch a masterclass in total war. The Velcran poked a sleeping predator. They're about to learn why you never ever do that. On Earth, President Sang-hoon addressed humanity one final time before the war began. They thought we were prey, he said, his words broadcast to billions. They thought our compassion was weakness. Our desire for peace was cowardice. They murdered our people, our children, our future. His voice grew harder. Now they'll learn the truth. We are the children of Earth. We climbed from the bottom of the food chain to the very top. We survived ice ages, plagues, and our own weapons. We built civilization from nothing, and we will not be prey. He paused, letting his words sink in. To the Velcran Dominion. You wanted war. Congratulations, you just declared war on the most deadly species alive. May your gods have mercy on you, because we certainly won't. The transmission ended. Across human space, the fleets prepared to launch. The armies loaded onto transport ships. The weapons powered up for the first time. Admiral Daeun stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Retribution. Around her, the largest human fleet ever assembled waited for the order. Admiral, her communications officer said, all ships report ready. Daeun thought about the morning star, about Commander Hyun's last message, about the children murdered while trying to hide. Open a channel. All ships. Channel open, Admiral. Daeun's voice rang out across the fleet. Remember why we're here. Remember what they did. Show them no mercy because they showed us. The Velcran scouts had been watching the human convoy for 3 days. 6 large ships moving slowly through space near the Sirius system. They looked like more colony vessels, fat and slow and helpless. War Master Krell studied the scanner data from his command ship. This was perfect. After the humans' pathetic threats at the Galactic Council, the Velcran had decided to teach them a proper lesson. More human slaves would show the galaxy that the Velcran Dominion feared no one. Only 3 escort ships, his tactical officer reported. Small ones. Probably armed merchant vessels. Krell's jaws spread in what passed for a Velcran smile. The humans learned nothing. Send the battle group. Take the ships intact if possible. We want the cargo alive this time. 15 Velcran warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel surrounding the convoy. Krell watched from his command ship as his forces moved into position. The human escorts were already turning to flee. Pathetic. This is War Master Krell of the Velcran Dominion, he broadcast. Surrender your ships. Your people are now property of the Dominion. The response surprised him. The lead escort ship turned back toward his fleet. A single small ship facing 15 warships. This is Admiral Daeun of the Terran Coalition Navy, a human voice said. You have one chance. Surrender now and you'll be treated according to galactic law. Krell laughed so hard his crew looked at him in confusion. You offer me surrender? With one tiny escort ship? Humans truly are. He never finished the sentence. The space around his fleet suddenly filled with ships. Dozens of them. Hundreds of them. They appeared from nowhere, materializing like ghosts. What is? Krell started. All ships. Admiral Daeun's voice cut through the channel. Fire. The Velcran fleet died in seconds. The human ships weren't using energy weapons. Instead, massive railguns fired metal rods at incredible speeds. The Velcran shields, designed to stop energy attacks, did nothing against solid matter moving at nearly half the speed of light. Krell watched 3 of his ships simply disintegrate as the metal rods punched through them. The kinetic energy was so massive that the ships exploded from the inside out. "Return fire!" Krell screamed. "All weapons!" The Velcran energy weapons struck the human ships, but the humans had different shields, layered defense systems that scattered and absorbed energy attacks. The Velcran weapons barely scratched the human hulls. Another volley of railgun fire. 5 more Velcran ships exploded. Krell's tactical display showed his fleet dying in real time. In less than 3 minutes, he had lost 12 ships. "Retreat," Krell ordered. "Full retreat." But the humans were faster. Their ships moved with impossible agility, cutting off escape routes. The colony ships opened up, revealing massive weapon batteries. They had been warships all along, disguised to look helpless. Krell's command ship shook as a railgun round clipped its side. Alarms screamed throughout the bridge. The Velcran crew rushed to repair stations, but more human ships were closing in. "Admiral Dayun," Krell broadcast, his pride swallowing hard. "I surrender. My fleet surrenders. Please show mercy." There was a pause. Then the human admiral responded. "Mercy? Like the mercy you showed the Morning Star? Like the mercy you showed our children?" The human ships stopped firing, but they maintained their positions surrounding the 3 remaining Velcran vessels. "War Master Krell," Dayun said, "you're going to help us send a message. Prepare to be boarded." Krell had never felt fear before. The Velcran were warriors, apex predators from a death world. But as he watched the human boarding craft approach, something cold settled in his chest. The airlock opened and human soldiers poured in. They moved with deadly efficiency, their weapons never wavering. Krell and his crew were disarmed and restrained within minutes. The human leading them removed her helmet. It was a young woman with cold eyes. Colonel Sunwoo, according to the translator. "War Master Krell," she said calmly, "welcome to your new reality." Krell and his officers were brought to the human flagship. The corridors were clean and efficient. Nothing like the organic architecture of Velcran ships. They were taken to a white room where a human woman waited. "I'm Interrogator Yunji," she said. "We're going to have a conversation about your fleet positions, supply lines, and command structure." Krell drew himself up. "I am a War Master of the Velcran Dominion." "I will tell you nothing," Yunji smiled. It reminded Krell of a predator's grin. "That's fine. We have ways of getting information. Some are gentle, some are not. The choice is yours." What followed was worse than any torture Krell could have imagined. The humans didn't hurt him physically. Instead, they did something far more terrifying. They showed him exactly what humanity was capable of. Yunji pulled up footage of Earth's history. Wars that lasted years, weapons that could destroy entire cities. Humans fighting other humans with a brutality that made Velcran warfare look civilized. "This is what we did to ourselves," Yunji said calmly. "We nearly destroyed our own species 7 times. We built weapons that could end all life on our planet. And we did all of this before we even left our world." She leaned forward. "Now imagine what we'll do to you. A species that murdered our children. Krell, you didn't just attack humans. You attacked the single most dangerous predator species in the known galaxy." Krell felt his certainty cracking. He had thought humans were weak. Prey animals with soft skin and fragile bodies. But looking at their history, at the cold calculation in Yunji's eyes, he realized the horrible truth. Humans weren't prey. They were persistence hunters. Predators that tracked their prey for days, weeks, months until the target collapsed from exhaustion. And they had just started hunting the Velcran. "I'll tell you everything," Krell whispered, and he did. Fleet positions, supply routes, command codes, the location of the Velcran slave processing centers. Everything. When the interrogation was done, Admiral Dayun came to see him personally. "You're going home, War Master," she said. "We're sending you back to your people with a message." Krell felt a flutter of hope. "You're releasing me?" "In a manner of speaking." Dayun gestured, and soldiers brought in a recording device. "You're going to tell your high command exactly what happened here. You're going to tell them what humans really are, and you're going to deliver our ultimatum." Krell stood before the camera, his pride shattered. He recited the words the humans gave him. "I am War Master Krell. I attacked a human convoy with 15 warships. The humans destroyed my fleet in less than 5 minutes. They are not prey. They are predators. Return all human prisoners immediately. Withdraw from human space, or they will come for our homeworld." The recording ended. Dion nodded to her soldiers. Put him on the remaining Velcran ship. Send him home. Krell was escorted back to his heavily damaged command ship. The humans had repaired it just enough to make the journey home. As he prepared to leave, Colonel Sunwoo handed him a data chip. What is this? Krell asked. Footage of what happens to your other ships, Sunwoo said. So you can show your high command we're not bluffing. The Velcran ship limped away from human space. Behind it, the wreckage of 12 warships floated in the void. The human fleet had already vanished, jumping away to their next target. On Velcran Prime, the homeworld of the Dominion, the High Command received Krell's message with fury. He surrendered? The High Chancellor roared. He begs for mercy like a prey animal? Look at the combat footage, one of the military advisors said. The humans have weapons we've never encountered. Kinetic weapons moving at relativistic speeds. Our shields are useless against them. Then we adapt our shields, the Chancellor shouted. We are the Velcran Dominion. We have conquered 40 systems. We will not bow to some prey species. But one of the older commanders spoke up. His name was Varn, and he had seen many battles. Chancellor, I recommend we examine the human data files, understand what we're facing. What is there to understand? The Chancellor snapped. They got lucky. One battle means nothing. Varn pulled up Earth's historical database, the files that were publicly available to all galactic species. He showed the assembled Velcran leadership what Yunji had shown Krell, human wars, human weapons, the systematic destruction humans had inflicted on themselves throughout their history. Look at this, Varn said, highlighting one particular conflict. They call it World War II. 85 million dead. They killed each other with gas, fire, and atomic weapons. And this was centuries ago. The room fell silent as they watched footage of human warfare. Cities reduced to ash, millions dying in camps, weapons that split atoms and released the power of stars. They did this to themselves? One commander whispered. Their own species? Yes, Varn said. And they survived. They rebuilt. And they became stronger. Chancellor, we haven't just attacked a species. We've attacked the survivors of countless apocalypses. We've attacked creatures that climbed to the top of their food chain, and then built civilization on the bones of their world. The Chancellor stared at the data. His certainty was wavering, but pride pushed him forward. We are Velcran, he said firmly. We do not surrender. We do not retreat. Execute War Master Krell for his cowardice. Then send our grand fleet to human space. We will crush them completely. Varn closed his eyes. That would be a mistake, Chancellor. Your objection is noted and ignored. 800 warships will teach these humans their place. We will burn their homeworld and scatter their ashes across the void. The Velcran Grand Fleet moved through human space like a hammer. 800 warships, the pride of the Dominion, swept forward in a massive wave. They expected resistance. They expected battles. Instead, they found empty colonies. High Chancellor stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the abandoned human settlement below. The colony had been home to 50,000 humans. Now it was empty, buildings intact, but not a single person remaining. Where are they? He demanded. Where did they go? His tactical officer checked the scanners. No life signs, Chancellor. They evacuated completely. Every colony we've reached has been the same. This was the 5th empty colony. The Velcran had pushed 300 light-years into human territory and found nothing but ghost towns. They claimed the territory, raised Velcran flags, and called it victory. But Commander Varn, watching from his own ship, felt uneasy. This is too easy, he muttered to his crew. They're planning something. He was right. Behind the Velcran advance, human strike groups were appearing like ghosts. Captain Bora led her fleet of Q-ships, disguised merchant vessels that looked harmless until they opened fire. Target the supply convoy, Bora ordered. All ships, weapons free. The Velcran supply ships never knew what hit them. One moment they were transporting ammunition and food to the Grand Fleet. The next they were debris clouds. Bora's ship struck fast and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. Across human space the pattern repeated. Velcran would claim a colony, celebrate their victory, and then find their supply lines cut. Food shipments disappeared. Ammunition convoys were destroyed. Fuel depots exploded mysteriously. They're avoiding direct combat, the High Chancellor raged. They're cowards striking from shadows. But Varn understood. They're fighting smart, Chancellor. While we celebrate capturing empty buildings, they're starving our fleet. In another month, we won't have supplies to continue the advance. Then we push harder, the Chancellor ordered. Faster! We'll reach their homeworld before our supplies run out. Deep in Velcran territory, Lieutenant Yuna was leading a mission that would change everything. She commanded a special operations team, 20 of humanity's best soldiers. Their target, the Velcran Slave Processing Center on Velcros Prime. Yuna's team moved through the darkness, their stealth suits making them nearly invisible. The processing center was heavily guarded, but humans had learned Velcran patrol patterns from the interrogation of War Master Krell. Guard change in 30 seconds, whispered one of her soldiers. Window opens now. They moved, silent, deadly, efficient. Velcran guards fell without making a sound. Yuna's team reached the holding cells within minutes. What they found made Yuna's blood boil. Thousands of humans packed into cages like animals. Men, women, children, starving, beaten, broken. Find the Morningstar survivors, Yuna ordered. They should be in the high-value section. Her team spread out through the massive facility. They moved past cells full of human prisoners, each one a story of Velcran cruelty. But they couldn't save everyone yet. First, they needed information. In a reinforced section of the facility, they found them. 153 survivors from the Morningstar. The ones the Velcran had kept alive as examples. Among them, barely alive, was Commander Hyun. Hyun looked up as Yuna's team entered. His eyes were hollow, his body broken from months of torture. But when he saw the human soldiers, something sparked in those dead eyes. You came, he whispered. I knew you'd come. Yuna knelt beside him. Commander Hyun, can you walk? I can crawl through hell if it means leaving this place, Hyun said. His voice was weak, but his spirit wasn't broken. Did we make them pay? Tell me we made them pay. Yuna smiled grimly. Sir, we're just getting started. Can you help us free the others? With my dying breath. The rescue wasn't quiet. Alarms eventually sounded. Velcran guards rushed toward the holding cells. But they ran into human soldiers who fought with a fury the Velcran had never encountered. Yuna's team didn't just fight to win. They fought with the rage of people who had seen what the Velcran did to prisoners. Every Velcran who had participated in the torture died slowly. Get the prisoners to the shuttle, Yuna ordered. Her team was extracting 2,000 humans, far more than they'd planned. The shuttle wouldn't fit everyone. We'll make it fit, one of her soldiers said. Leave no one behind. They fought their way to the landing pad where they'd hidden a stolen Velcran cruiser. The prisoners poured into the ship, packing in tight. Velcran reinforcements were coming from all directions. Lieutenant, we're at maximum capacity, the pilot warned. Any more and we won't make it to orbit. Yuna looked at the remaining prisoners. 50 people still on the ground. 50 humans looking at her with desperate hope. Pile them in, she ordered. We'll make it work. The Velcran cruiser was never designed to carry so many passengers. It groaned under the weight as it lifted off. Velcran fighters pursued, firing energy weapons. The cruiser's shields held barely. Commander Hyun sat in the cockpit watching the planet fall away below. Velcros Prime, the place where he'd been tortured for months. The place where he'd thought he would die. Status, he asked Yuna. We've got everyone, sir. All 2,000 plus the Morningstar survivors. We'll reach human space in 3 jumps. Hyun nodded slowly. Then he asked the question that had burned in his mind since his rescue. The Velcran. What's happening to them? Yuna pulled up a tactical display. It showed the Velcran Grand Fleet, strung out across hundreds of light years, their supply lines in tatters. It showed human strike groups hitting them from every direction. It showed Velcran ships running out of fuel, ammunition, and food. We're destroying them, sir. Piece by piece. Just like you asked. Hyun closed his eyes. Tears ran down his face. Good, that's good. Back in human space, the war was entering a new phase. Scientist Junho had completed his terrifying new weapon. He called it the Quantum Cascade Bomb. He stood before Admiral Dayan and President Sang-hoon explaining what he'd created. It manipulates quantum fields to destabilize stellar fusion, Junho said. In simple terms, it makes stars collapse and go supernova. The room went silent. Admiral Dayan spoke first. You built a weapon that destroys suns? Yes, Junho said simply. I based it on old Earth theoretical research. We never built it because the moral implications were too severe. But given what the Velcran did, President Sang-hoon leaned forward. How many of these weapons do we have? 3 prototypes. We could build more, but the resource cost is enormous. Don't build more, Sang-hoon said. Not yet. but prepare one for demonstration. The Velcran need to understand what they're facing. Meanwhile, the Velcran Grand Fleet was dying, not in glorious battle, but slowly, like a beast bleeding from 1,000 cuts. Commander Varn watched his supplies dwindle. They'd been in human space for 6 months now. They'd captured 12 colonies, all empty, and in return they'd lost 40% of their support vessels to human raids. "Chancellor, we must withdraw," Varn urged. "We're running out of everything. Food, ammunition, fuel. The fleet is starving. The High Chancellor's pride wouldn't allow retreat. We push forward. Earth is only 4 jumps away. We'll resupply there after we conquer their homeworld." Varn wanted to scream. Couldn't the Chancellor see? The humans had planned this. Every step of the Velcran advance had been anticipated. They were walking into a trap, and the Chancellor was too proud to see it. Then the hammer fell. Human fleets that had been hiding, waiting, struck. Admiral Dayon led 400 warships in a coordinated assault on the overstretched Velcran forces. The attack came from every direction at once. Velcran ships, low on ammunition and fuel, tried to defend themselves, but human railguns tore through their depleted shields. Human fighters, faster and more maneuverable, picked off Velcran vessels one by one. The High Chancellor finally understood. They weren't fighting a conventional war. They were being hunted. "All ships, retreat," he ordered. "Get back to Velcran space. Full speed!" But the retreat was a disaster. Ships ran out of fuel and had to be abandoned. Others, trying to jump to faster than light speed, found human ships waiting at every jump point. The Velcran Grand Fleet was being systematically annihilated. Commander Varn managed to save his ship and a few others. As they limped back toward Velcran space, he looked at the tactical display. Of the 800 ships that had left Velcran Prime, fewer than 300 remained. "We lost," he said quietly. "We attacked prey and found predators." On Earth, President Sang-hoon addressed the Velcran High Command through public channels. "You've lost half your fleet," he said calmly. "And we haven't even shown you our full strength. We have weapons you can't imagine. We have patience you can't match. And we have a memory that will outlast your empire." He paused, letting his words sink in. "You have one chance. Surrender unconditionally. Return all human prisoners. Pay reparations for your crimes. Or we demonstrate what true human warfare looks like." The Velcran High Chancellor's response was immediate and angry. "We are Velcran. We are warriors. We do not kneel to prey species." Sang-hoon sighed. He'd expected this. "Very well. Junyo, prepare the demonstration." In an uninhabited star system at the edge of Velcran space, scientist Junho deployed the quantum cascade bomb. The Velcran military watched through their sensors, curious about what weapon the humans would show. The Terran coalition fleet gathered at the edge of Velcran space. 400 warships, the largest human military force ever assembled, hung in the darkness like a storm waiting to break. Admiral Dayon stood on the bridge of her flagship looking at the tactical display. Velcran Prime was 3 jumps away. The Velcran homeworld, heart of an empire that had terrorized this region of space for centuries. Today that empire would fall. "All ships report ready." "Admiral," her tactical officer said. Dayon thought about Commander Hyun, now recovering in a hospital on Earth. She thought about the children murdered on the Morning Star. She thought about every human who had suffered at Velcran hands. "Operation Payback begins now," she said. "All ships jump." The human fleet materialized in Velcran space and immediately spread out. This wasn't a single attack. It was coordinated strikes across the entire Velcran dominion. Human ships hit industrial worlds, military stations, and supply depots simultaneously. General Hana led ground forces on 3 Velcran factory worlds. Her Marines dropped from orbit in assault pods, hitting the surface like hammers. The Velcran defenders fought back, but they were facing human soldiers who had trained for this moment for months. "Remember the rules of engagement," Hana broadcast to her troops. "Military targets only. But if they resist, show them the same mercy they showed our people." The Velcran fought with desperate courage. They were warriors after all, and this was their space. But courage meant nothing against human tactics. Marines used weapons designed specifically to counter Velcran biology. Armor-piercing rounds that shattered Velcran scales. Sonic weapons that disrupted their neural systems. On the factory world of Velcro 7, Colonel Sunwoo led an assault on a military production facility. The Velcran defenders had fortified the position, expecting a frontal assault. Instead, Sunwoo's team infiltrated through maintenance tunnels. "Plant the charges," Sunwoo ordered. "We're taking this whole facility down." Explosions rocked the factory from the inside. Months of Velcran weapons production went up in flames. The Velcran military was being systematically dismantled, piece by piece. But the real fight was at Velcran Prime. The High Chancellor stood in the Planetary Defense Command Center, watching the human fleet approach. Around the planet, the last of the Velcran Grand Armada waited. 200 ships, all that remained of their once mighty fleet. "They're not even trying to hide," the tactical officer reported. "They're coming straight at us." The Chancellor bared his teeth. "Good, let them come. We'll show them that Velcran don't surrender. We'll bleed them for every inch of our world." Commander Varn stood beside him, his expression grim. He'd tried to convince the Chancellor to surrender, to save what remained of their people. But Velcran pride was absolute. "For what it's worth, Chancellor," Varn said quietly, "it's been an honor serving with you." The Chancellor nodded. "And with you, old friend. Now let's make them pay for every life they take." The Battle of Velcran Prime began with a human broadcast. Admiral Dayan's face appeared on every screen across the planet. She spoke in perfect Velcran, her words cold and clear. "People of Velcran Prime, this is Admiral Dayan of the Terran Coalition. Your leaders started this war by murdering our civilians. We're here to end it. We offer one final chance for peace. Surrender unconditionally and face justice or face extinction." The High Chancellor's response echoed across the planet. "We are Velcran. We will never kneel." "So be it," Dayan said, and cut the transmission. The human fleet opened fire. The space around Velcran Prime lit up with weapons fire. Human railguns launched their deadly projectiles at relativistic speeds. The Velcran fleet tried to respond with energy weapons, but the humans had learned every trick, countered every tactic. Captain Bora led her squadron of Q ships into the heart of the Velcran formation. The Velcran thought they were attacking helpless merchant vessels. Then the Q ships opened up, revealing hidden weapon batteries. "All batteries, continuous fire," Bora ordered. Her ship shuddered as railguns hammered away. Around her, Velcran ships were breaking apart, unable to withstand the kinetic assault. But the Velcran weren't going down without a fight. Energy beams lanced out, catching Bora's ship. Shields flared and died. Hull breaches opened across 3 decks. "Damage report," Bora shouted over the alarms. "Multiple breaches, Captain. We're venting atmosphere. Engineering says we have maybe 10 minutes before—" "Then we have 10 minutes to make them count," Bora said. She turned her dying ship toward a Velcran battlecruiser, all remaining power to forward guns. One last shot, her crew understood. They poured everything into the weapons. The railgun fired one final time, a massive tungsten rod moving at half the speed of light. It struck the Velcran battlecruiser and punched straight through, the kinetic energy tearing the ship apart from inside. "Evacuate," Bora ordered her crew. "Get to the escape pods. I'll stay with the ship." "Captain," her first officer started. "That's an order. Go. Tell them we took 3 of theirs with us." Her crew evacuated while Bora sat alone on her dying bridge. She watched through the view screen as the battle raged around her. Human ships were winning, but the cost was high. The Velcran were making humanity pay for every victory. As her ship's power failed and the cold of space crept in, Bora smiled. They'd made them pay, just like Commander Hyun had asked. On the planet's surface, Colonel Sunwoo's Marines had landed. Their objective was the Imperial Palace, where the High Chancellor commanded the defense. It wouldn't be easy. The palace was a fortress, and every Velcran soldier on the planet was willing to die defending it. "Lieutenant Yuna," Sunwoo called, "take your team through the eastern entrance. We'll hit them from 2 sides. Yuna, now promoted for her rescue mission, nodded. "Yes, sir. We'll make it count." The assault on the palace was brutal. Velcran warriors fought with fanatical courage. Every corridor a battle, every room a fortress. Human Marines advanced meter by meter, paying in blood for every step. Yuna's team breached a throne room where Velcran elites made their stand. The aliens were massive, covered in ceremonial armor, wielding energy blades that could cut through human armor. "Grenades," Yuna ordered. Her team threw flashbangs and concussive charges. In the confusion, they advanced, weapons firing. It was close-quarters combat at its most vicious. Yuna faced a Velcran champion, a warrior twice her size. It swung its blade, nearly taking her head off. She ducked, rolled, and came up firing. Her rounds punched through the Velcran's armor, but it kept coming. The champion grabbed her, lifting her off her feet. Yuna could feel her ribs cracking under the pressure. In desperation, she pulled her sidearm and emptied the magazine into the Velcran's face at point-blank range. The champion fell, and Yuna with it. Her team pulled her free, checking for injuries. "I'm fine," she gasped. "Keep moving. The Chancellor is close." They found him in the command center, still directing the defense even as his world burned around him. The High Chancellor turned as the human Marines entered, his eyes filled with hatred. "So you've come to execute me," he said. "Do it then. But know that the Velcran will never forget. We'll rebuild, we'll return, and we'll have our revenge." Major Yuna stepped forward, her weapon trained on him. "You still don't understand, do you? There won't be a next time, we're making sure of that. By killing me? I'm just one Velcran. My people will." "Your people are defeated," Yuna said. "Your fleet is destroyed. Your military is broken. You attacked humanity expecting prey. You found predators. Now you face the consequences." The Chancellor roared and charged at her. Yuna didn't hesitate. She fired. The High Chancellor fell, and with him the last organized resistance on Velcran Prime collapsed. Admiral Daeun watched from orbit as the battle ended. The Velcran Grand Armada was destroyed. Of the 200 ships that had defended their homeworld, none remained. Human ships had taken heavy losses too, but they had won. "Admiral, we're receiving surrender signals from across the planet," her communications officer reported. "The Velcran military is laying down arms." Daeun nodded slowly. "Accept their surrender. Begin occupation procedures, and send word to Earth. It's over." But was it really over? In the weeks that followed, the galaxy watched as the Velcran Dominion crumbled. Without their military and leadership, the 40 systems they had controlled fell into chaos. Some Velcran worlds surrendered to humanity. Others fell into civil war as different factions fought for control. The Terran Coalition occupied Velcran Prime and 3 other key systems. The rest were left to sort themselves out. Humanity wasn't interested in empire. They'd made their point. President Sang-hoon addressed the Galactic Council from Earth. "The war is over," he said. "The Velcran Dominion no longer exists as a unified threat. We've recovered our people, destroyed their military capacity, and ensured they cannot threaten anyone again." He paused, looking directly at the other alien ambassadors. "Let this be a lesson." Humanity sought peace. "We extended friendship." The Velcran responded with genocide. This was the result. The Quilmari ambassador spoke, her voice trembling. "You destroyed an entire empire. 40 systems reduced to chaos. Was such destruction necessary?" Sang-hoon's expression didn't change. "They murdered our children. They enslaved our people. They laughed while doing it. Yes, it was necessary. We gave them every chance to stop. They chose extinction over surrender."